This slide is just showing you the NC 2.50 that says that beginning this year, that we would do the salary survey on the mayor, and that we would do it every 4 years. And for this, if you decide to make a change, it will be effective the first of next year. So we looked at 21 cities, and using the salary of only strong mayors of all 21 cities, the mayor's salary is 34.9% below the average and 33.83% below the median. Using only cities with a population of up to 100% above and 50% below the cities, the mayor's salary is 29.3% below the average and 26.7% below the median. The next thing I looked at was how other cities set their mayor's salary. And 40% of them use an independent or salary commission. They call them both. 15% give them an annual cost of living, and 35% give them the same increase as the non-represented employees. And then we looked at which cities, how many of the cities had full service cities like we are. And of the 21 surveyed, 65% are not full service and 35% are. Looking at cities with the population 100% up and 50% down, 88.89 are not full service and 11.11 are full service. And this is the salaries of all 21 cities that we used. And it the same thing I said earlier, 34.9% below the average and 23.83% below the median. And this is 100% up and 50% below the city's population, showing the cities used, and the mayor's salary is 29.3% below the average and 26.7% below the median. This is a history of the pay increases that the mayor has received since 2008. And you can see since the mayor's been in office, he's received one pay increase back in 2020, and that was a 3.64% increase. It also shows that in 2014, there was a 10.15% decrease. And look at today versus 2008, the mayor actually made more about the 2008. If we had done what some of the cities do and gave the mayor the same increases that management gets, his salary would have been $13,708 today, or I think it's $9,800 now. That's what I have. Does anyone have a question?
This is just information only for right now, and then down the road it will come back to us to actually deliberate on, correct?
Yeah, it's up to the council if they want to give them a change. And for the BMC right now, it would take effect next year. So we would do it a salary, or you guys would approve it in the budget. If you wanted to do, because that is quite a difference, if you want to do something sooner, then we would have to change the BMC. So I kind of looked at all the ways to do that.
Okay, so we might have a discussion here to see if we want to move this forward for a future study session as well. Okay, for context. With that said, we'll go to Eric first.
Okay. Thank you. So the history of this, the salary cut, I was there during that. It was brought up by the District 6 council members. And we looked at correctly. Looked at the salaries, and I don't recall the entire context of why we reduced it, but I believe we looked at salaries earlier. The ordinance when I was council president, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, I took it upon myself to not look at the current mayor, which was Mayor Wheeler at the time, the position. I said there was nothing in place to look at the mayor's salary. So I convened the council. We looked at numbers. We didn't use your methodology that you use. I would ask for the next go around, if we proceed further, we use the same analysis we did last time. Okay. Look it up in the record. I'm sure you'll find it. The cities for our comps, because that's not how they looked at the salaries for the last time. It's not how they look city council salary commission.
That's how we look at city council. We use the same city.
You use the city of Seattle
Yes,
and you averaged it.
yes.
So I'd like to see that.
Well, unless, no, we wouldn't use the city of Seattle because they have full-time council members. So the
Yes.
other cities we would use.
So I'm asking that we use the same methodology we used last time. That was in terms of the ordinances, to take a look at that. Subsequent years, past ordinances, we look at it 4 or 5 years from now. So I'd like to look at that analysis and not the one that was just presented. I am open to it. It's about the position, and it's not about the mayor's performance. It is clearly about the position. Voters decide on the mayor's. That's the framework that was the intent of the ordinance, and to take politics out of it. Without that ordinance in place, it could be years and years and years before the mayor's salary will get not reduce the salary. So what happened there, however many years ago, it was reduced for the next mayor term. Not reduce the mayor's salary while they're in office. Increase, not reduce.
Thank you. Quinn?
Thank you, Ms. Olson. My only question is, it said 40% was based on independent commissions setting the salary. What was the other 60%? How did the other 60% figure it out?
35% is, they get the same increases as the management and non-independent employees. And the other,
Oh, I see. So that 15% was set by ordinance of the council, and then there's a COLA in it. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, after looking at some other positions within the city, I'm definitely interested in making sure that the executive is compensated similar to his direct reports and other branches of government.
Let's see, other hands.
Thanks, Jim. Good evening, Charlotte. So how are these 21 cities chosen?
we didn't do that salary survey every year. So it was easy to pull it out and tell which cities were
Manager.
yeah, I told everyone they had in there.
So usually, like, for example, when I'm truly not complaining, let me make this really loud, not complaining. But when city council salaries were considered, Bainbridge was thrown out as an outlier, which I can completely understand. So I'm curious why Seattle, or was Bainbridge included on this one as well?
No,
But was Seattle not considered an outlier?
on the smaller survey, yeah, we pulled them out because of population, but these are all strong mayors
Yes.
and their council is different, so that's why they weren't used on the council side. They're actually both on.
I understand that. In other words, it's a very normal thing to do in statistics. You have a group of numbers and one is quite out of whack. Like if, for example, of the people in this room, someone felt that the mayor should simply serve for the love of it, that would be an outlier. So Bainbridge was considered similarly incredible outlier for council salaries. So I'm wondering why Seattle was not considered such an outlier for mayoral salaries.
That was, that's the conclusion that proposed was out. I don't, exactly.
Fair enough.
But that's also why I did it two different ways. It's 100% up and 50% down the population.
Okay.
So that it's really, it's 5% increase in the average. And on one, it's just 50% or 100% up, 50%. And ours is 21.3% below. And, you know,
Well, I would like to look at this data, but I, and not having seen the data that Eric is referring to, I do like comparing apples to apples. And if there was a methodology that was used in 2014, is that correct? Then I'd like to look at using that data again. If, of course, one of those cities has become, you know, completely different in nature in the intervening 6 years, which is a thing that could happen. That would be one thing, but it would be easier for all of us, I think, to look at that data. Thank you.
Perfect. Let me just make sure, no, Jennifer didn't hand up. So yeah, so I think I'm personally absolutely in favor of revisiting this. I strongly believe we should have competitive salaries for all of our city staff and positions, including electeds. So if I got it right, Bainbridge has full-time council members and no strong mayor. So we basically have no comparison to them on either level. But Seattle has a strong full-time mayor, just like Bremerton, but they also have full-time council. So that's why for council salaries, we don't compare to Seattle, but for the strong mayor system, at least on that level, having a strong full-time mayor. Yeah, obviously a lot of other differences between Bremerton and Seattle, but on that system alone. Okay. So I think for council, am I seeing enough head nods that we want to revisit this and see if we can arrive at a number? In at least 3, 4 head nods. But it sounds like the specific ask is to calculate a proposed number with and without Seattle included, just so we can see what that difference is. And then to Eric's point, seeing what cities were used, and I'm going to get this straight, what cities were used in the council determination survey, or what was used when a couple of years ago for the mayor determination.
When we did the mayor's calculation in whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
We followed the same methodology. I want to say there's like 10 cities selected and only 4 had a strong mayor or something. But I believe that's the methodology we use because there are similar sized cities. So you don't have outliers like Seattle. The council was comfortable with that because that was a similar approach that we use for our negotiations with the Teamsters, police and fire, as far as picking our comps. And we feel comfortable doing that with the mayor, even though that reduced the amount because 6 out of the 10 were at city manager form of government, but that was the best data that we went with. This other stuff is new to me. I'd have to actually, it wasn't in our packet, so I'd have to look at that. I'm not saying that's not a fair process, but it completely caught me out hard because it was used to the way we did it.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like it easy to easy, but do
no,
the calculation. And okay, so if we have those kind of 3 sets of numbers next time, we can take a look and discuss amongst ourselves which method we like or don't like, and see how far apart the numbers are. Okay. And sorry, on in the back here.
Thank you, Jeff, for like reminding me to master basic courtesy. I think that the mayor deserves to get a decent salary and a proper raise. So in case that wasn't clear.
So the other thing in revisiting an issue we had too long ago when we talked about the third comp and all this stuff. So without getting too much in the weeds, I believe our mayor has a car allowance. Could look at particularly those 4 cities that I'm not asking to look at L29 or whatever your analysis. But if you look at the other one to see if they're having deferred comp or car allowance or anything like that, it shouldn't be too heavy, but just to be fair.
you say four cities? It's the ones.
Whatever's on that we did last time. I know it's a small thing. I think Mount Vernon, which you had on there, is also on that one as well.
Mhm.
I want to say it's Mount Vernon, Olympia, City of Longview.
Not like there's-
I think it's not like there's.
Yep, that seems fair. We were just talking about total compensation for other elected officials the other week, so that makes sense to me. All right, well, thank you so much, Ms. Nelson, for doing all the hard work, and whenever you're ready, come back to another study session and we'll dig into it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Ms. Belmore, I'm used to the old name. All right, next up, item A2. We have Police Chief Tom Wolf and Fire Chief Pat McGanny to present a discussion on a funding source for public safety staffing. This is a continuation from what originated at our joint planning session. Chiefs, take it away.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, we would just like to continue the conversation from Councilman Retreat on a staffing increase for police and fire, and expanding going through budget. Staff is expensive. We have to find a way to fund it. So working probably the line trying to figure out a funding source. I think if Mike was still good on this. Okay. A way to fund it either via a bond or property tax increase. So our proposal is a property and tax increase of 4 cents per thousand, which for a $300,000 house would be about $140 a year, $10. What that would give us is 17 new FTEs between police and fire, 9 for fire, 8 for police. And the one position, additional position for fire is trying to get back our OA2 office assistant, because right now the department is operating with one office assistant, and she is technically the office assistant to the fire chief, but she is spread very thin, handling all help with all the other divisions between an office, EMS, operations, and fire marshal. So for the fire department, and I'll let Chief Wolf what it would mean for us. And it's a 2-year hiring period for both fire employees. So for the first year, we would hire 5 FTEs, and then the next year we would hire 4. So 2024 we would hire 5, 2025 we would hire 4. And the first year we would hire 3 paramedics, it's a company officer, and then the OA2 for us, and then 2 firefighters, 2 paramedics in the following year. What this will allow us to do is to get Medic 4 up and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it'll up our minimum staffing by 2. It'll take us from 14 personnel on duty every day to 16. Give us an additional response unit. What Medic 4 is doing right now, we're only running Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6. But with our increased transport times, increased out of service times at the hospital, which has improved some, but we're still there, depletes our response capabilities to be able to handle emergencies, and then we have to rely on mutual aid, which we'll talk about that next after this. So that's kind of the fire side of things. I'll let Chief will talk about that.
Yeah, so council, as we've been talking.
Just your microphone side online.
How's that? As we started the conversation, as we look at staffing numbers and we look at our comp plan from 10 years ago, our comp plan right now would have us right about 81 officers and scheduled for 64. So we're falling behind on that. In 10 years, we're estimating to be 64,000 more population. We're growing out toward the Anderson Hill, which creates a whole other district. We control 5 districts the way we split out now. That creates a 6th district, which would be 3 shifts, 6 officers for that. Just trying to keep up with growth and everything. We have to find a way, I think, to add our services within that window. What we would do right now, of course, for what the needs are immediately, but we're looking at adding two to traffic. That's probably one of our biggest complaints. I get it from most of the district reps and the citizens continuously, and I think the mayor's office here quite a bit also. Our ability to, with the law changes and stuff, we're still able to go get criminals, but we have to play the long game. So I need to add some detectives in to go after property crime and things that are affecting our citizens. We bolster our detective vision and our community policing in our debt team. We continue to grow that and have a debt presence in all areas of the city as much as possible. It's kind of a 10,000 foot view.
So what we're looking for is council to tell us to move forward with the ballot measure, which is going to take a while to put together. If council supports this, between finance and legal and chief and myself, but we have to have everything to the county by May 12th, August ballot. So I believe there's some benefits to us running on the August ballot. So it's that fire and rescue is going to be on the ballot for their levy, which we can kind of message public safety together out in the community. I believe there's maybe some school district stuff coming in November, not for us, but the south end, which sometimes brings some negative issues for them. So, but we're just really looking to see if council's in support of this.
Okay, perfect. We'll do some Q&A and then look for head nods, and Denise hand first.
I am, I'm a visual person, and I'm, like, put it in front of me in black and white kind of person. Use color, that's the but I guess with the, I've heard everything, and I am so fully supportive of getting you to the point where you feel capable of handling what you have now, which is, I think, what we're trying to do here. It's like bring it up to what the standard that we should be at. That's the goal of this.
Right, it's trying to get us to where we should be to be able to handle the emergency response within the city for police and fire. I mean, if you look at the projections 10 years out, and we don't do anything, we're really so this is to get us to where we really should be to be able to handle what we have now.
And that is probably, I'm sure, going to be part of the messaging that ultimately is used once you work with whoever the powers that be politically to write it up and all that. My question procedurally is this normal to kind of get the blessing of a council without anything really in writing about what it may be? We've got verbal testimony. It doesn't seem like it's
I'm going to maybe attorney, and then I'll start putting on spot, and I'll get used to that. To walk through, what's the exact legal process to get this submitted by the city on the ballot?
So I think my understanding was for tonight, this is another informational session for you all to provide input and ask questions. And presumably there would be much more that goes on once we get to go ahead. But this is the direction that the council wants to go. And then there's going to be approval of language that the council does by ordinance. I'll be honest, I don't have it right now off the top of my head. Certainly we'll get you this. This is my understanding. This is a continuation of an earlier discussion so that the chiefs could get the idea if you even wanted them to go down the road for developing, I think, what you are expecting to see.
Yeah, so we're trying to give you kind of a 30,000 foot view of this is what the cost will be to move forward with something like this, and then be able to put the presentation together. But it's going to take a lot of staff time to be able to put all this together and get it ready, and then come back to a formal study session for your approval. This is 30,000 foot just to continue the discussion, get that road, then we'll get all the powers to be, we'll put it together, the ordinance, but if there's not the interest, then.
Will we be saying that we're planning to, or what are we, what does this say?
If I could jump in, it sounds like we're looking to give a head nod for them to do the work, not that we're committing one way or another to the vote, but certainly if all 7 of us were like, absolutely not, then yeah, no point in going off and doing the work. But if the majority of council is at least receptive to it, sounds like they can do the work and bring it back to us and discussing.
Thank you.
I think excellent question. Jennifer, then Quinn, then Anna.
Hello, I cannot see any of you and I miss seeing your faces. So I wasn't, and some of it I wasn't able to hear very well, but I know we had this discussion earlier and this did come through public safety. We gave the head nod to do the work. And respectfully, Denise is chair now, but she was not able to make that meeting, but I have a couple questions I just want to clarify. You might need to speak directly into the mic just in case so I can hear good. But can you, Chief McGanny, can you give me the rundown one more time? You've done it twice for me now and I apologize, but can you give me the rundown now again about your plan for the FTEs?
So it would be a total of 9 FTEs, 5 paramedics, 3 firefighters, and office assistants. Over 3.
Great. And Chief Wolf, your plan 2 for traffic, and then, so we're talking about 8 on your side, 8 FTEs. And these are full-time FTEs, is that what's being proposed?
Yes.
Okay, and so 2 for traffic, and then what were the rest?
Currently, we're looking at 4 detectives and 2 community resource officers, or 2 debt officers.
Okay. And this is, I don't know that we've ever done this before. Have we in Bremerton bundled for emergency services, property tax increase? Have we ever done this in Bremerton before?
Not for staffing, we've run public safety bonds, buildings, the fire station, the police station, and actually for 2004 for public safety bonds, but not for staffing.
And I think I just want to harken back to our budget discussions where we were really trying to check in with you about your needs and you mentioned the day car as something you'd like to have 24/7. And we really wanted to kind of see if we could support through the budget, increase staffing, and that was not something that you were interested in at the time. I don't believe. Well, I think it was more like we'll never turn down extra funding, but we need to work together within the departments to create a balanced budget. But I think my concern is if this fails or that or if we receive some blowback from the community, that I feel like I don't want to speak for everybody on council, but I just want to harken back to that budget session where we really wanted to support or find out if you needed support financially for FTEs for fire and emergency services, specifically for your department. But we did, in public safety, once again, give the head nod for the work to be done. And we do need staffing, especially for our firefighters, EMTs, paramedics. That's a huge need. And so I think those are just the comments that I wanted to make respectfully. And I appreciate all of you.
And thanks for the feedback on the microphones, especially as we work on that. And if anyone's watching online, the camera is currently down, but IT is working on getting that back up. So folks are aware, but hopefully audio is working well. Next, Quinn.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for being here. The only questions I have is, like Denise, I'm visual, so I'm going to try and remember what you said, but I think it's important to reiterate the numbers. 64,000, you say that projection of the population of Bremerton, and what is the time frame for that? That number stuck out. I'm sorry.
I believe that is 10 years.
The comp plans, looking at the comp plans, and the numbers, I looked at the police department selfishly. I didn't look at where we were at 2015 and the numbers that were projected. The city planning on 1.8 per thousand officers, and we're at currently 1.4 is what we're operating off of. You know, and that's kind of where we've landed. So even at 1.4, at 64K, we still need 80.
And that 1.4, you're reading my mind. That was going to be my next question. The 1.4, kind of the per capita number, how does that compare to other cities within the Puget Sound region or
Well, Washington is the least staffed law enforcement in all 50 states. We have the fewest officers per capita. The national average is 2.4 per thousand. New York is 4 per thousand. So it's big numbers as far as how we stack up to everyone else. I think we're all down.
And then I think what is also helpful for the public who might be watching right now to understand is some numbers that came through public safety. If I was reading those numbers correctly, it looks like crime across the board has been pretty much going up in Bremerton compared to last year's numbers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Another number that to give the council was in 2007, we were staffed at 66 officers in the police department, and that was at a population of around 35,000. So now our population is, I'll say it's right around 45,000. We're staffed at 64 officers. So 42, that's somewhere in there. So we're not keeping.
So for me, at least, I'm seeing three things that are needed: keep up with population growth, keep up with crime growth, I guess, for a way to quantify that number, but then also to make sure that we're at least staffing in a way that's comparable to other cities. So I think this makes sense, and obviously it will be for the voters to decide, but I'm more than happy to see the numbers and have staff put the work in.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so for all y'all, if you can hear your voice coming out of these speakers, the people outside this room can hear you.
Good feedback, pun intended.
I missed it, I'm
It's a good feedback, pun intended.
sorry. Okay, Chief Wolf, Chief McGanny, what a pleasure to have you here. You have all of these facts and figures, and you're comparing staffing levels now to the staffing level in previous comp plans. You're using percentages. You're looking at the amount of growth. And I was wondering, it would have been, if you had given us all of that, then we could have read it and digested it. And at this point, we could be saying, you go write that. Go write that language. Go get that ballot. But as it is, I'm completely with Denise and also with like the people I represent, because if there's something that's in the packet, I can't say that every single person in my district is going, oh gosh, how can I get through the night without reading these facts and figures? But it's got to be there. It's our duty to have it. So if you could put those figures on paper and send them to us, I believe it's the consensus of this council.
Yeah, I think this is just a informational briefing, which
Yeah.
appreciated by Don.
But
If there's any questions on what's been presented, yeah.
My thing is, it's like I'm listening to these figures and they sound good, and I am not retaining them. So I would like to retain them. So if they were written down, I could do that. So you've given us an information briefing that I at least have really retained, and I'd like to. Okay. And just to respond to something that was said earlier, the figure we kept hearing at AWC conference was crime in Washington was up 47% on average. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, Eric.
Okay, so I'll start off with 65,000 people in Bremerton forecasted by when?
I'm sorry, Chief, a little closer to the mic because I'm realizing, yeah, I think you got to get pretty close to those things.
2044.
Yes, we were, no, it wasn't, it was within the next 10. It came out-
2034.
Yeah, 2034.
The reason why I bring that up is, so,
2044, thank you.
okay, because if it's 2034, so first of all, these projections, there's no doubt in my mind will increase. I don't know by that number, because in 2000, we hovered around, I want to say 40,000 people. And we've been largely flat. We've had an increase with all this building and all this stuff. And now we have a housing shortage. We have cost of capital going up. We have builders not building at the rate that we built up until now. It's slowing down. But I can't forecast 20 years in the future. No one can. But I will tell you that my experience is that the projections are always pretty high, and our actual numbers are much lower, at least in the last 20 years that have been. I do not discount the need that we're going to need more police officers and firefighters. So just that little caveat, keep in mind, don't automatically assume we're going to have 65,000 people here in 2044. Whatever, I'm not sure I see. The other thing is, before I'm okay with this moving forward, I would need an internal analysis from our finance department showing our forecasted revenues and why we can't take care of this internally, why we cannot fund this with our general fund money. Why do we have to go to the taxpayers for additional support? Now, I do understand that around 2001, 2002, we had a noted initiative writer that passed an initiative that capped our property tax increases to 101% plus new construction of the previous year. In other words, only a 1% increase. That initiative, if I recall correctly, was voided by the courts, but then Governor Gregoire turned around and got it passed through the House and Senate. And that's what we've been living on all these years, basically a 1% increase in property tax. And of course, we all know in the city of Bremerton, our primary revenues are property tax, B&O tax, which the council rightly has reduced or basically flattened because of all the exemptions we're giving. And sales tax, I'm forgetting another one. Sales tax, property tax, B&O tax, and utility tax. We have a four-legged chair. Many municipalities just have a three-legged stool. But even then, one of those legs is very shortened compared to the growth of the other two because of the property tax being limited to 1%. I will tell you my experience was previously on the council. I believe we were authorized by law to increase it 6% a year. And guess what we did every year? 6%. So, and that's the reason, in my opinion, why the initiative writer did what he did, and why Governor Gregoire did what she did through the legislature. So there should have been a happy medium, not maybe a 6% or a 3%. Nevertheless, because of that, I could see going to the voters saying, look, we have this law and it's handcuffing us. Now, if you recall in our emails, we're getting literature from the AWC talking about property tax relief. I would like to see what that looks like. And that's going to go through the committees within the next week or two, whether it's going to move on as, you know, if it's going to survive. So I'd like to see what that language is. I assume you gentlemen are aware of that. That may give the city relief in being allowed to do this councilmatic, if you will, and then again, take care of it internally without going to the vote of the people, which is no slam dunk, right? Right. So my preference is do the analysis to see if we can take care of this in-house, because that would be the preferable alternative, not ask the taxpayers for more money. But if we can't, if we don't get property tax relief through the legislature, then I'm open to asking the people. Of course, you're going to have to, this is Shark Tank to 40,000 residents. You need to prove why we need to do this. And don't want to deny you the opportunity. So I'd be okay with that, provided we do these other two steps first.
I agree. I think it will be a heavy lift to get through. It'll have to definitely be a grassroots campaign to get it done. But when we were proposing this, the initial layout for this request is $3.2 million. And that not ongoing, because some of it's got equipment and training and stuff like that. But when we're talking about 17 FTEs long term, it was the same reason that I kind of pushed back a little bit about council funding FTEs during the budget session, not knowing what the future of the city looks and if we're heading into a recession. I want FTEs. Both police and fire need FTEs. There's no doubt about it. But being fiscally responsible is a whole nother thing. And, you know, I mean, basically to add 3 FTEs is right around $400,000. I don't want to look somebody in the eye that I just hired 6 months ago when the council comes back and says, hey, the recession's hit, we got to lay people off. I don't want to do that. That's not, so I'd rather be fiscally responsible. I do the police chiefs the same way. I just think a $3.2 million hit long term, right? I mean, if it was a one-time cost, I get it, but funding employees over that, I feel like there's a challenge. And I agree, this is going to be an uphill battle with the citizens, but I think we have the ability to lay out the case, the need. I mean, for the fire department, our call volume is going through the roof with everything else that is going. There's not relief there. Our people are running, we almost ran 11,000 calls with 14 people. Comparatively, even in the county, we're not even close to the number of staff that people running the same call volume.
Clear.
So this is just trying to think outside the box to be on the same page with the city.
Let's go back to Eric, just
just to build on that. So chiefs, your proposal basically is saying, I need 17 people, whatever the number was, because we're going to have a projected growth of this and this is to meet it, but we're not going to be there overnight. So in other words, that's great. If that's what your ask is, a one-time ask increase property tax. But if we take care of this in-house, I would like the analysis not to assume that we got to fund $3.2 million right off the top. Normally, when we increase FTEs, we do it piecemeal. We do, and usually, if I recall correctly, we do at least 1 year, fire the next year, three here, 5 there, or whatever it is. And I understand you have shifts. I get it. Adding by 1 doesn't help when you need to add by 4. I understand that. But I don't know if we need to have a full multiple of 17 that first year. So I would like an analysis done that way to say, okay, what is your minimum increase that would provide substantial relief to your officers and help cover shifts versus, oh, this is what we need when we were at 65,000 feet. Just to be clear on.
Okay, so to clarify on that, we're not asking for 1 year. I'm just saying the one, if you were to do it over 1 year, would be 3.2 million. We're saying 2 years. Onboarding 4 or 5 is a max that we can handle a year just because of everything that we need to do. We're not a huge department. So this is a 2-year plan to get it staffed. This isn't looking, this staffing that we're asking for is not looking 20 years down the road. We're trying to fix the problem now. We're behind. Now, this is going to get us, if we were able to get this would get us really where we should be today. In 10 years or 15 years, we're going to have another issue because with our growth and everything else, we're just not seeing call volumes, and we've got to be able to respond to the calls. So this really will get us to where we need to be today. So, and again, we're not trying to fund this in one year, and we did that over, we broke, and I broke the numbers out with the spreadsheet. So, I mean, if the general fund could handle it, it would be fantastic.
I got a question of my own, and then I can go to Denise real quick, and then see if we can get a consensus, just because I know we're going to have to do multiple, and then I'll go back to Jennifer after Denise as well, since I finished up the first round. So one of the questions to clarify, I've kind of asked before, I think I know the answer, but out loud. So we have been growing as a city, and property tax scales with assessed value and house rates have also gone up. So the city overall has been taking in more property tax revenue. Is it fair to say though that the share of that goes to police and fire has not risen at the same rates? That's one for you, Director Riley. Is that, I'm not sure I'm articulating exactly.
I understand what you're saying. We'd have to do a quick look,
Mhm.
but to put that together, but we can provide that to council. It wouldn't take very much
Okay.
to see if there was some kind of growth there.
That'd be good, because I'm just thinking out loud, especially going to the taxpayers, which I just I think absolutely they should be able to, decide, but to give them all the information, if they're looking at their bills and saying, wait, I've been paying more property tax over time, isn't that going to extra police and fire? I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I can comfortably say proportionally that piece of the pie has stayed proportionally the same size. So it has grown, but I don't believe it's gotten much greater of its proportionate share.
To keep up with the extra response rate and the growth of the city overall. Okay. And so, yeah.
Well, to answer your question, no, it hasn't kept up. In 2007, when we were at 66 bodies with 35,000 people, the recession hit, we lost 11 positions. And it took us until this council granted us 5 bodies to go from 59 to 64. We're still not at 66. And we're at, at 45,000 population. But also the laws have changed in such that our response to crime and our response to, we go to a lot of behavioral health. We still have to go to all of that. And it's not one on, in 10 years ago, you'd send 1 or 2 officers. Now we have to send 3 or 4. And we spend a lot more time on scene, really slowing things down, time, distance, giving people a chance. So the service that we're providing is nowhere near what it was.
Having to do more with less people. Unclear. But yeah, I think that makes sense out loud, that the not funded by property tax alone, even though that has been increasing, not nearly enough of the rate to actually add enough to use from that as it currently sits. Okay. Yeah, let's do a quick round of questions and then I'll try and sum up where we're sitting at.
Quick question around process again. When does the lobbyist get involved, or whoever knows how to talk about this? Because we're hearing themes about not having the capacity to even serve who we currently have. We're looking for, population growth, down the road. But we're trying to manage the crime we already have that we're seeing going up. And yet, I've got to reiterate, when I look on an agenda and I see I'm going to get a full presentation on something, I don't feel like I got a presentation because you just talked to me. And Jennifer takes notes, so I can always rely on her, and we'll have, all of this. But, talking points about something like this would benefit this process very much.
Fair enough. We're really just more of an informational to see if we were to take the time and put staff time into it.
I get it a lot more than I did.
Jennifer?
Thanks. Okay, so I understand why it's hard to make presentations for us, because you only have like one office coordinator that's managing everything. And so, but I think some of the talking points that might be helpful too. First of all, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting you're bundling them and not trying to do something that's just fire, police separate. But we don't have to talk about the reasons behind that. But I think some things that might help for us is, I remember some of the figures that y'all were quoting to me. Both chiefs were quoting about 1.4 per 1,000 people are needed, right? Like those kinds of figures help. You did send us the data on the crime statistics. Other data that would help is, what I learned about is the RCW requirements for the firefighters, EMTs when on a scene, that usually and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the 2 in, 1 out. Can you tell us about the RCW that requires your firefighters, who can be in and who has to be outside of the scene? As far as staffing?
Yes. Point of order.
What was that?
Because of the microphone, yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, there was
we
a-
seem to have a majority that would really like to see written information. And yet we are still discussing spoken information. I would like to halt this and at a time that is mutually agreeable, resume the conversation with data in front of us. Thank you.
Point taken. Jennifer, any kind of
Okay.
last question? Yeah, I can help wrap up with that.
Okay, so information on that would be helpful for us to see, to compare. And then, cost of FTEs, including benefits. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let me just, anybody opposed to getting this new information, anyone who would just absolutely not want to see this go on the ballot? All right, so not seeing that, it sounds like I've got a request for if it's possible to do it in-house, Director Riley, pros and cons, just for us to be able to do due diligence and look at that. And then obviously getting this all written up for folks to lay eyes on in terms of the specifics of the request and the FTEs and everything. But I'm hearing, I think, a consensus that we want to keep going on this. Personally, I think it's like a really good solution to Bremerton's issues and bringing us back up to par on our staffing per population. And I think the voters deserve a chance to, be able to weigh it. But so maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll be able to come back with a write-up. And Director Riley, I don't know if that's enough time. Okay. Unless you need anything more hard and concrete immediately to get going, or is that enough information to come back and then maybe we get a firmer head nod on writing it up?
Well, I guess I would just like to be clear.
Sure.
On exactly what information, you want us to put the ballot language together or not worry about the ballot language? Or you just want statistics?
I think it's just making sure that what I've written down, and I think, Jennifer and others, of the 40 cents levy, the 17 FTEs, the positions proposed that go to, and I think saying out loud, we're not locked into those positions as it has to be the positions the ballot passes. That's just the proposal right now, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Because for me, if I hire a firefighter paramedic, they're going to be a firefighter paramedic. If I hire a firefighter EMTs, that's
Necessarily be in the ballot.
chief may, move people around to what their needs are.
Okay. So I think I'm hearing just the basic numbers we heard today of the proposed staffing levels, the levy rate, and some of that historic information on Bremerton staffing levels over time. Obviously showing what you discussed, that we're low compared to the past and, behind the curve. Anything else, council, I didn't capture in there? Eric?
So a long time ago, when the council used to be focused on annexation, we were very concerned with being competitive with the county. In other words, for the most part, in order to annex areas, you need the vote of the people that you're trying to annex. We were really laser focused on showing why being in Bremerton is a better value than the Kitsap County, and it can be a hard sell. So my concern would be, and the question is, and I understand, Kitsap County Sheriff's Office is severely underfunded. Do they have any intention, the county commissioners, of doing a property tax increase, or they can continue to let the sheriff's department, and you can correct me, Chief Wolf, if I misspoke in here, but to correct the underfunding and lack of services, adequate services of the sheriff's department. Do they have anything on plan?
Not aware of anything.
Is that an inaccurate statement I made about the sheriff's department? I think that's kind of well known that they're underfunded, or is that inaccurate?
I think over the years, our sheriff's office has been the least staffed in of 39.
So, and then, likewise for the rest of the county, I believe, is served by fire districts. Even Bainbridge Island seems like a unique animal, because I was looking at, on your next item, they have commissioners, so I don't believe they are directly a subset of Bainbridge Island, but there's a fire.
Jump in just to move us along. Can I sum it up that you'd also like to see a comparison to what the county?
No,
has funded?
so the
Okay.
county doesn't have, the county does not have fire departments. What I'm getting at is, the other fire districts, have they gone to ballot measures for personnel, or has it been just like Bremerton, and they're just asking that for capital improvements and trucks?
No, the fire districts, and some of them have since expired, but they are able to run operation and maintenance levies for 4-year terms. The city is not, cities are not allowed to run operation and maintenance levies except for 1 year. So they have run operation and maintenance levies, Lakewood or Pierce County Fire District 2, which is now West Pierce. Since I was a kid, ran operation and maintenance levies, and it was all tied to staffing. So with different things in growth, departments run operation and maintenance levies for staffing and equipment, where the city, like for our fire trucks, we have to go to bond when we buy our fire trucks with the city. And then they'll do capital improvement bonds. You saw Central Kitsap and South Kitsap both run large facilities, capital facility bonds that way. But yes, the fire districts will use O&M levies for staffing.
Okay, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Just the summary is, and maybe I'm the only taxpayer in this whole county that looks at that, but what is my value? I mean, am I getting a better bang for my buck for being in the city of Bremerton versus the county? If we're looking at annexation, and I think we will, to take care of these islands and all this, you don't want to hamstring yourself being the highest taxed part of the county and then say, hey, it's a great value to be here. And then you got the data that says, no, it's not. So that's something you have to consider.
Hold on. Anna, all right. Yeah, Chief, sorry, just quick
Just
response there.
Just to
then
kind of hit
wrap it
on
up.
what Councilmember Younger is saying, is fire districts are junior taxing districts, and they are limited to a maximum of $1.50 per thousand for fire protection, 50 cents per thousand for EMS. We run the same EMS levies across the county, everybody's at 50 cents. But fire districts are limited to that $1.50 a thousand, so they have to get creative sometimes within their funding. And if that fire levy fails, or there's a senior taxing district to them affect their taxing rate, then that creates issues for them. And so that's when they end up getting other funding sources. And really it's either bonds or O&M.
All right. So overall, I'm seeing folks want to do a lot of due diligence, which is fantastic. Get a little more information, but overall, keep moving forward on this in 2 weeks. So any other questions on the information being looked for? Okay, sounds good. I think we're going to move on unless you had something real short, Anna, and relevant. Sorry, just to. Okay, perfect. Good deal. But let me say thank you both, Chief, so much for working hard on this and coming up with a creative solution, because I know that I think the council has spoken out loud how much we value having our critical community services in the city.
Well, thank you. Sorry, like I said, we were trying to keep it at a 30,000 foot level. Next time
This council, we love to dive bomb in right in. So you get to the trees and yeah. No, okay, perfect. Thank you so much again. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Tuesday's there. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jennifer was there. Oh no, Judge Flood, I see your hand up, which
Oh, well,
did you chime in on this one?
I was hoping to just add that at the safety committee meeting, Court Administrator Jennifer Johnson did want it to be known that any changes to the staffing, and she's on vacation, so I'm appearing via Zoom because she made me promise to. So greetings, I'll make this quick. Any increases to the staffing in the police department will have direct effect and impact on the courts. So it'll be important to look at that when we're looking at FTEs and how staffing will be impacted
Okay.
from the court standpoint.
Next time this comes before council, and especially when there's a chance for public comment, we can get that factored in. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry if I missed your hand earlier.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you.
Jennifer.
And just really quickly, I just sent this resource, something that to keep in mind is a property tax increase is another example of a regressive taxation method. So I just sent a resource for City Council just to look at regarding progressive taxation ideas for municipalities. That is all.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll then move on to briefings on agenda bill items. So, Danny, welcome back. Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
All
Hopefully
right.
This one will be simpler.
Sounds good. You're here to present mutual aid agreement with Kitsap County Fire Agencies for the provision of fire protection and emergency medical services.
So this is our mutual aid agreement with everybody in the county, including the Navy. And so that agreement is expiring next month. And so before you is a late agreement with a 10-year contract length time.
So to clarify, we discussed this and passed this a year ago, if I remember right.
No, this has been a few years ago that this mutual aid agreement has been before the council.
Okay. Yes, start with Emma.
This is a great idea. Do it.
All right, short and simple. Any other questions, Jennifer?
I don't know if, I mean, just having seen, you know, the MCO and how that mutual aid agreement really has a benefit, especially to training and so on. Is this something that I'd like to hear if it should be on general or consent, just because it might be a nice opportunity to brag on the good efforts.
Would do that. I'm not opposed. Any other questions first, and then I'll bring that up. Sure. Nope. Okay. No questions. I'd normally be good with consent, but Jennifer, do you want to put this on general for that exposure?
I will be on
just wanna
vacation next week.
Chief will be out. Okay. Maybe lean towards consent, but maybe this is something.
If you want to put on consent, let's go for it. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good, especially if the Chief's out, but I like the resounding positivity. All right. So this will go on consent for next week. Perfect.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Chief. All right, next is B2. Parks Director Lovato is here to present the second amendment to the park use agreement for Kiwanis Park with the Corporation of the Catholic Archbishop of Seattle, doing business as Our Lady Star of the Sea School. Thank you, Director Lovato. Take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Excuse my voice. In January of 2013, the city entered into a park use agreement with Our Lady Star of the Sea School for use of Kiwanis Park for recreational purposes during and recess and physical activity purposes. The initial term of this contract was for 10 years. We came to council in December once we learned that they were interested in extending another 5 years, which was part of their agreement. Council provided us the opportunity to extend to the end of this month, and we had a chance to talk with them, and we're coming back to you with a few minor changes to the agreement and ask for your approval. One thing I'll add is that the initial agreement included a $400,000 donation to the project. When we started talking about costs, we look at a rental fee of a park, roughly $30-some per 4-hour rental, which works out to about $8 an hour. And using the park for 2 hours a day for roughly 170 school years is about $2,700. When we started extrapolating the $400,000 over those 10 years, it was $40,000 a year of donation. So even if you take that 400 and take, let's say, 200 out of that to use to build the playground, for example, over the 10 years at 200 would be 20. If we add additional 5 years, it's still $13,000 a year. So what we're asking for your approval is to just extend the contract with no change in monetary compensation at this point. We'll reevaluate this in 5 years and determine then if it's time for us to start asking for a rental fee. I would also add that the church and the school have both committed to helping us with some capital improvements and also cleanup, community cleanup days. So that's kind of how we brought it forward, and happy to answer any questions.
Cool, thanks, Director. Questions, Eric?
So, no issue with the additional consideration and lack thereof. I figured that out myself as well. It's, they put a big down payment. I understand that. The, just the housekeeping on, under the recitals, first page, need to change that from 11:30 p.m. to 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Otherwise,
Well,
you know,
parks are closed at dusk, yes.
yeah, they'd be partying and whatever. Okay, thank you. And then the other thing is kind of a, one counselor just picked that one up a little late. So the other thing is just a concern about the liability. It's a risk management question. I understand the risk manager is not here, but she does work for Kylie. Maybe you could chime in here, Jeff. The $1 million combined single limit per occurrence, excess liability not less than 1 million per occurrence, and then you know, it's a bunch of gobbledygook. I'm not an insurance expert. Are we asking for enough insurance coverage, or is this the same standard clause that we've been carrying forward for year after year after year? In other words, I've got $1 million personal liability or umbrella policy that I've been carrying for years, and I'm thinking to myself, we have inflation. I probably need it up to, and I gotta imagine if someone gets hurt on the park's playground, I'm not sure $1 million, especially $1 million if it's just per occurrence, is enough if more than one child gets hurt. So that's the only question I have is, should we be looking at this, or has it been looked at to see if it's sufficient liability coverage?
I'd be happy to defer to Kylie, but I know that this was reviewed with our current risk management standards, WCIA, which is our insurance carrier, and this language was updated as part of this agreement. I think I'd defer to Kylie.
Sorry, I was just, Anna was pointing to the thing behind me and I thought there was something there. So you're distracting me. Yes, my understanding is that we have reviewed this and it's consistent.
Fair enough.
Any other comments or questions from council? Denise?
I just want to reiterate, I'm a big fan of public-private partnerships, and I really like this partnership and like to see that it continues. It's beneficial to everybody, I think.
Sorry, no hand from Jennifer. Correct.
Yeah, my hand's up.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. I know it's hard to see during, it's okay.
issue, so I can't always see you. So
Yeah, it's I don't know if y'all can see me or not, but I can't see you, but Director Elevato, let me go and lower my hands. So what I want to make sure of in this kind of a partnership is that so you said we had a $400,000 donation, and that was that 5 years ago, you said? I'm having a hard time hearing, so I'm
10
gonna,
years, 2013, when the Kiwanis Park
10 years.
renovation project occurred.
Okay, so 400,000, 10 years, 40,000 a year. That's less than what you equate to, you said $8 an hour for park use?
Our current rate for park rentals are $32 for a 4-hour rental.
Okay.
Per resident. So dividing that by 4 gets me to 8. And then we know that they use the recess and the sports activities for approximately 2 hours a day. That's what they're scheduled for. And then they can also use the park for other activities, special events, but that's run just like a regular rental that we do for the rest of the community. So they would pay
Okay.
the going resident rental rate for that. But
So,
yeah, that's
so like they're gonna have like a bonanza, a school bonanza, whatever we call those, a fair or whatever, they would rent the facility separately. Then it's just specifically for recess time for 2 hours
correct.
during school days.
Correct. As Councilman Younger helped corrected, thankfully, it's a specific time
Until
during
PM.
the day that they use it, and it's only Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Then they'll do activities on a weekend, a special event thing, and that's just run like a regular rental.
And so
they pay the rent free.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I feel like I cut you off. I apologize for that.
No,
I'm leaning in close because I am, it's okay. And so what I want to make sure of is that other groups that do rent the facility for educational use are treated in an equitable way. Are there other school groups, for instance, that use the public parks and do a rental fee for a certain period of time? And are they treated equitably?
I think so. We do rent to Catalyst for use of Manette Park. I would say Catalyst did not provide $400,000 worth of support to renovate the park, but we do work equally with that. And council approves the rate structure, and we apply the resident rate for use of those park spaces. So yeah, I would say we have a standard that we use, and we charge people equally.
Great. I'm thinking
We
also
have the opportunity to work with nonprofit groups and provide rental assistance or waivers based on the community need. And I'll also say that the Kiwanis usage is not exclusive use. The park remains open to the public.
right.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that does. Thank you. I'm thinking of like organizations like Barnacles and Bees, and you mentioned like the nonprofit angle where if they could possibly apply for a lowered fee or waiver, things like that. I just want to make sure.
Actually, Barnacles and Bees is a commercial venture. They charge a fee for people to participate in their program, but they also do a lot of community service work. So we work with them, and as Councilwoman Fry mentioned, partnerships really work for us well. So
Yeah.
we get community benefit out of it, and we look at the rates and work through those.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure, that we weren't showing preference towards a religious entity as a, government, as a municipality. That was different than how we were treating other private organizations or entities. Just something I just wanted to check in on. Thank you for explaining that. It's all kinds of moving parts with this. Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, good evening, Director Lovato. Thank you for explaining so many of the points you explained the last time you presented all of this. I know that several of us had concerns about the exclusive use, and you not only explained that the first time, you explained it in the written attachments, and now you've explained it again. Thank you. I just wanted to, if you could just talk briefly about any capital projects that were promised assistance.
Well, generally, we're looking at all kinds of capital projects, but particularly for Kiwanis Park, as council may be aware, we were awarded a generous donation from the Kiwanis Club to replace the playground equipment. And we also received a Department of Commerce grant to support the turf, which would be the, like evergreen turf. I call it evergreen turf.
Yes.
Artificial turf, which makes it completely accessible. So those capital projects are the next on the list for Kiwanis. Other things include, we had a wooden fence that was around the perimeter of Kiwanis Park, and we think we got some bad lumber and it's just rotted in 10 years. So we just recently had to replace all along 4th Street, the fencing there for protection purposes. So there's always something in parks that we need to kind of do. And the commitment from the church and the school was that we're up for that. We will support you in that. And they had no issues with helping to raise funds to do those types of projects.
Okay, I'm enthusiastic about this project as well, just by the description that you gave of the use. So
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
the first time you presented, you were describing how the kids are and how the people who supervise them are, and right? That was really touched the heart. So thank you.
Fantastic. Seeing no other questions, my only question I have is just to ask any complaints from any other people visiting the park about the time when the school is using it.
And again,
Vigilance and stuff.
Councilwoman Mocker kind of alluded to it in our previous discussion about extension. I think that question was asked, so, and I think it's a great question. We did have some, I guess my comment would be the concerns we had were nothing that were outlandish or things that we couldn't manage. One concern was some folks who were walking the trail noticed a large group of kids running on the trail or on the walking path towards them, and they became a little fearful for fear of getting knocked over or hit. The kids are kids, and they were just doing their physical activity. So we spoke to the principal that, hey, we had a slight complaint about this. People were concerned. She spoke to the teachers, the staff, and the students both. And we're firmly convinced that they are the best citizens that they can be, because they understand the importance of that. So I think it has a lot of value, not only in being good stewards of the park and good stewards of a community asset, but they're learning lifelong lessons, and they're going to protect that park for the rest of their lives. So we've had minor ones, but they've been resolved completely. In fact, I even was really impressed with the process that they use to determine who gets to use the swings, because swings are really popular, and they have a time thing that they do. And as soon as someone in the public that's not part of the school comes up and wants to use the swing, they move to the front of the line. But I thought that was a really good approach. Also, as you may know, there are 2 playground areas there, one for 2 to 5-year-olds and one 5 for 12. If there are any small children from the neighborhood at the 2 to 5, that's completely off limits to the school children. So I really feel like they're doing the best they can to be the best stewards. The only other, and it's not a complaint, it's a compliment, is that people that live around the neighborhood love to hear the kids playing on the playground.
In New York Park myself now, my husband and I joke all the time, oh no, the sound of children having fun outside, awful. That's great. Okay, how does council feel about consent for this?
Consent.
For general, all right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Director, for working with them on this and bringing it to
Thank
us. All right, so this will go on consent for next week. Next up, we have Internal Services Manager Chris Mottner for item B3, Street Fund Budget Adjustment for the PSC-owned Streetlight LED Conversion Program, and this is a continuation from our study session 2 weeks ago. So welcome back, Mr. Mottner, and thank you. Take it away.
So I am here to present the street fund budget adjustment for the PSC-owned streetlight conversion program. I am presenting this on the Public Works Director's behalf, and will give you some background information on this program from Tom's presented council summary sheet. So currently the city street illumination is accomplished using a combination of city-owned and PSC-owned streetlights, along with a few privately owned streetlights on private streets. To date, all 1,008 city-owned streetlights have been converted to LED. However, 1,578 of the 1,788 PSC-owned lights are high-pressure sodium lights. Currently, the HPS lights are replaced by PSC at their expense as they fail. And since these types of lights are being phased out, they are typically being replaced with LED type. With the current approach, it is estimated that all HPS lights will be converted to LED in approximately 10 years. To date, the city has not been eligible for grants to fund a programmatic LED conversion. However, PSC has advised of a new rebate program that results in a 4-year payback on the cost of the conversion. The proposed program would convert PSC-owned lights in phases of 120 lights, with the goal to convert 4 phases each year. With this approach, all PSC-owned streetlights would be converted to LED in approximately 3 years. Under costs and savings information, the city pays PSC a monthly tariff to operate and maintain each of its streetlights for 2020, the total cost was $425,000. Or 2022, the total cost was $425,000. There are several different tariffs with different costs depending on the wattage and whether a light is HPS or LED. As an example, the 2022 cost of a 100-watt HPS light is $14.72 a month, while a comparable 39-watt LED light is $11.61 per month. Given that, the cost to convert a light to LED is $256, and considering the $3 a month savings it takes over 7 years to recoup the conversion cost, which has not been considered cost effective. PSE's rebate program reduces the conversion cost to $43 a light, which results in a 4-year payback and is considered cost effective. An added benefit of the LED conversion is that the new streetlights have a smart dimming mode, which can address customer concerns or improve efficiency. It is anticipated smart node streetlights will be less affected by future rate hikes. The conversion would install new LED lights meeting city standard, including the 5000 Kelvin CCT, and would be completed under 4 contract phases each year at a net cost of approximately $17,160 per phase. And so council action is not required for those. That said, a budget adjustment is required to fund the 2023 work. At the current tariff rate, the annual savings to the city would be approximately $59,000 once all lights have been converted. It should be noted that PSE advises the rebate value is adjusted each January and could be eliminated at any time. Should the rebate either reduce significantly or cease altogether, the city would stop the programmatic conversion. A table of estimated cost is provided in the council summary. Other advantages to the city of this proposed conversion project are that the LED street lighting has an increased energy efficiency. LEDs are energy efficient because they emit very little heat, so that they require far less power to emit the same amount of light as conventional equivalent lights. They have a much longer lifespan, high color rendering, and are quick starting compared to the older HPS streetlights currently in use. A typical HPS streetlight fixture lasts around 24,000 hours, and an LED equivalent can last upwards to 200,000 hours. So life efficiency is greatly increased with this program. As Tom had stated in the summary, the new LED lights would conform to the existing city standards and would have a correlated color temperature of 3000 Kelvin, which is the city's approved color appearance provided by a streetlight. There are many other benefits of this PSE-owned streetlight conversion program within the city. These new LED smart streetlights will save the city money by using less energy and reducing carbon in our environment. These new LED streetlights will provide a positive safety benefit that will help to reduce serious injury or fatal crashes on our streets and help to deter crime with more functioning streetlights within the city. These new PSE lights will also have the ability to measure lighting consumption to allow actual metered billing to the city as opposed to the flat rate billing. So this PSE-owned streetlight conversion program, as Tom has previously presented, will allow the city to reduce our energy usage, save money over time, and greatly reduce our carbon footprint. I will answer any questions you may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mottner. And enlightening information. All right, so just as a reminder, this we talked about 2 weeks ago. Went on general, and then we requested to remove it from general to discuss some additional concerns about refunding. So, all right, so and I just want to refocus the motion. Recommended motion is to increase the street fund budget by 70,000. We can keep the discussion focused mostly on the funding. I think at this point. Citizens and comments. We'll start with Anna.
Thanks. Good evening, Chris. So you gave us a figure, which is the figure I've been asking for a while. I think it was 3000 Kelvin. That's the definition of the city lighting standards. That's the the warmer light, great. So that really the two things I wanted, that I particularly wanted with this, were first, that be included as part of the motion. And the second thing is, what luck have you had in finding alternate funding sources than REIT, which is, the street fund, taking money from the street fund? I see a hand.
Yeah, I'm very
Behind
directed for
me.
that one.
Hey, Chris, if you don't mind, I'll jump in for that one. Without looking at pushing other projects, there's not a fund balance available with any other funding source other than REIT. We looked at other projects that they would cancel to move off, and that's not recommended by the administration at this point. So right now, the funding sources available to move forward would be real estate excise tax.
Do you have any follow-up questions here?
I'm not saying bad language here. So one of what Director Nucky said last time he presented this was that if the money, if this motion does not carry, it will continue with, as the streetlights fail, PSE will replace them, and they'll use these 3,000 Kelvin. They're going to use the same stuff, the same type of LED bulb in the light.
Yes, that's correct. It'd be to our city standards within the city.
There, you put it so much better than I. Okay. I really don't want to steal from Reed, but I am one of 7, so I'm just stating my position. That's it.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd say I personally understand the concern of using REIT funds, which can be used for other cases, but to me, this being able to get these replaced quickly, more energy efficient, environmentally friendly, and it seems like we're getting a significant cost savings for the city in the long run. It seems like a good move to me personally. So with that said, I'm not seeing, and yeah, if folks want to do consent, or on seeing that you're okay with consent? Okay, no.
General business, please.
General
Okay.
business, please. Oh, thank you, Anna.
Excellent. Okay. Nope, then this will go on general business for next week. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Monner.
Thank you.
All right, and that brings us to, check the time. Folks need a 5-minute break, or?
I think we might need a 5-minute break before the next item.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. For an hour and a half. So it's 6:30. Let's convene at 6:37.
Recording stopped.